Hi everyone, this is Lada from Astrolada.com, and today I want to talk about Mercury retrograde and what it means, particularly about this Mercury retrograde coming from the end of April 2016, from the 28th to around the 22nd of May 2016. And I'm going to talk overall about Mercury retrograde, so you have an idea, and so I can dispel some myths about Mercury retrograde. And in a very typical Mercury retrograde fashion, where I first tried to do this event as a live event, a streaming from YouTube, it just did not work technically. So it comes to prove, you know, every time I make a video about a planet, it comes with its own energy, and with Mercury retrograde it brought those communication problems. So that indeed Mercury retrograde does bring such communication problems, you know. But anyway, what does Mercury retrograde? Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year, and every astrologer tells you don't sign contracts, don't do anything that is connected to speaking, writing, don't buy or sell anything. Basically, they tell you to fully stop your life, because our society, modern society, is all Mercury ruled, which is all about communication, information, about travel, about exchange of ideas, about, you know, the current informational age, as you say. So obviously, the world does not stop when Mercury goes retrograde. But what does it mean? Mercury, when Mercury is retrograde, is twice closer to Earth than at other periods of the year. Usually the Sun is between Mercury and the Earth. So it kind of, you know, Mercury is usually somewhere on the other side of the Sun, so it's much further away from the Sun. But when it goes retrograde, it's actually between the Earth and the Sun. So it's way closer, and its influence goes straight directly on the Earth. So it becomes a retrograde planet, becomes 3 times more powerful in its expression. So what this means that all Mercury matters become 3 times more intense when Mercury is retrograde. Communication, writing, speaking. But when the energy is so focused and concentrated, why do problems come up? Problems come up because everything becomes so much about Mercury, travels, writing, speaking, communications, that this intensified energy puts the spotlight on any small mistakes that you've made before that, especially in regards to Mercury matters. And they come to the surface because Mercury retrogrades are periods to basically, because the planet is also moving backwards, but it's much closer to Earth, so it does illuminate the mistakes that we've made in regards to Mercury matters. But it's good because it wants us, the universe wants us then to fix those mistakes, wants us to, there's like an overflow of Mercury energy, whether it's communication, information, talking with people. And that's why when Mercury goes retrograde, I start getting so many orders for relationship problems, because the major thing in relationships is communications. You know, a relationship can only be effective, and Mercury rules couples, by the way, because it's a male and a female. The sign, one of the signs that Mercury rules is Gemini, male and a female. So Mercury rules coupling and relationships, because relationships are created by communications. When it goes retrograde, I start getting all those emails from people that they're having relationship reassessment, that they're arguing. Because why? Because the Mercury becomes super intense when it's retrograde, super powerful. So all those things that have not been shared, that past hurts that have been buried under the carpets, have not been expressed verbally, now come as an overflow, and the people start maybe bringing up things that happened years ago, that happened that they haven't talked before. So it kind of bubbles up, and it comes to the surface, and people, and whether it's only personal love relationship or whether it's business relationship, things that have been brushed under the carpet, things that have been bottled, things that people wanted to say but they did not say, they burst out, they bubble out, and people start talking them. That's why, you know, especially relationships that are in difficult situation, that the people have not been communicating well, when Mercury retrograde comes, they can say some pretty powerful words to each other. They can say things that they've been holding back for a long time, because Mercury becomes way more potent, so people don't hold back. They say the things, they go over the past problems, they bring them up, you know, to rediscuss them. But actually, if your relationship is worth it, if there is good way to save it, when Mercury retrograde comes, people just vocalize the things that bothers them that before they did not vocalize. And sometimes they themselves, you know, even if they did not block themselves before from saying something, when Mercury goes retrograde, all of a sudden people start seeing the situation and relationships from a different perspective. Because Mercury retrograde is like shifting the perspective of our thinking, because Mercury is thinking, and when it starts moving backwards, your thinking starts changing. So you might all of a sudden think about the situation from the past or something, and you see it in a totally different light, and you bring it up to your partner or to your business partner or to your client or to whoever you're communicating with. That's why this can create tensions. That's why it can create, you know, it says it brings up matters from the past. Of course, the planet is moving backwards, so it will bring matters from the past to be rediscussed, reevaluated. And if the two people, if the relationship is worth saving, if the business partnership is worth saving, if the contract or the project the person is working on is worth saving and it's good, you know, there is always a plan B, plan C that a person works on while Mercury is retrograde, and they're able to see that whole situation of communications, of skills, of writing, of speaking, of documents, of information, of working on some project, of business, because Mercury rules all those things. People are able to see it from a different light, and they're able to fix certain problems and to improve on it. So often I've seen after Mercury retrograde periods, okay, some crisis comes, some complications, the website stops working, the project kind of turns out that they cannot make the software as they wanted because something is missing, or you're working on some presentation and you realize there is some information you have to go over that is mistaken or whatever, you know, anything, or anything that you go over with the spoken communications, written words, spoken, written or spoken or verbalized, you go over it and you make extra efforts. Because a retrograde planet requires 3 times more extra effort, as I keep repeating, but its results can be 3 times more satisfying, its results can be 3 times more intense in the long run. Because a retrograde planet requires extra effort, but it gives more longer lasting results, more satisfactory ones. I can give you many examples. Mercury retrograde went last year, about a year ago, and I started looking at my website and I said, I don't like it. Your thinking shifts and you start seeing things from a different perspective, and even the thinking becomes from less, you know, becomes a little bit more creative, a little bit more different, and you start thinking. And I started thinking, I don't like how my website looks. I started seeing all the problems with the website, how it's not easy to understand, how to order, how to, you know, this is all marketing, advertising, management, information, this is websites, internet is all Mercury, you know. Our world is so mercurial nowadays. And when Mercury goes retrograde, you start seeing it from a different perspective, all those things. And you get new ideas. So Mercury retrograde can give you an idea. And I said, I'm going to redo this website. I'm going to change it. And it started, and it took me 1 year, but that started on the Mercury retrograde, me re-evaluating, reassessing, re-judging something. You know, or many times Mercury is retrograde and I find myself that I'm about to launch a new product. I've been working for a year on it, and this is when I do all the revisions. And even without planning that it's Mercury retrograde, it's just Mercury comes retrograde, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready with the project. Now I have to revise it, edit it, use my skills with 3 times more efforts. And Mercury retrograde requires us to put extra efforts and use extra of our skills, because Mercury is skills. Mercury is the information, the talents, and not so much the talents, but the skills that we gained. They might be skills of hands, skills of information as knowledge. They might be playing an instrument, operating a system, any skills in marketing, anything that you've learned is Mercury. You know, and Mercury retrograde requires you to put the extra effort into that thing, and to do it 3 times, to go over it 1, 2, 3 times, you know, because retrograde is about reiteration, repetition. And by the time Mercury starts moving direct, any kind of plans that you have to change, details that you have to change, you are so much happier with them, and they give you so much better results. Because if Mercury never went retrograde, we'd always be sticking with plan A, and that's it. We'll never have a time to revise, to change, to improve on something. And that's why Mercury retrograde planets I always know when someone is working already on a project, when someone is working on some project, when someone is in the middle of some negotiations, Mercury will come, they'll feel frustrated, but after that, they'll be with so much better terms and conditions of the contract. They'll be with so much better plan of work, and it involves a different plan to be prepared, but they'll be with so much better working system or project, and the project will be done in a much better way. So don't get scared from those periods, you know. They actually require more efforts, but that doesn't mean stop and don't do any Mercury things. Don't sign contracts, don't write, don't speak, don't use any of your skills, not at all. Just the opposite. The most intense communications, the most intense work on Mercury matters happens when Mercury is retrograde. But it's not easy because it requires extra effort, as I said, requires you to, because it kind of sometimes even scares us, because we have to go over the things a few times, and because it shows us the mistakes in all those Mercury areas. If you cannot plan the journey well, the mistakes will show up. If you cannot plan a project well, you miss some details, it will, Mercury retrograde, because it's so strong that Mercury will show you all those mistakes. So don't blame Mercury that it's fucking up those things in your life. When it goes retrograde, actually, you made those mistakes. So maybe you didn't communicate something properly before that. Maybe you didn't protect your internet, your accounts from, you know, from hacking. Maybe you did not change your password, you know, but maybe you know, some things, everything to do with Mercury communications. You missed some details before that on some business plan, or on some communication and information, or you were not communicating well with your partners or people around you. You were not saying exactly what you wanted, and then Mercury retrograde forces you to confront that because it becomes so strong. And this particular Mercury retrograde is about, it's happening in Taurus. Actually, it's going to be an easier Mercury retrograde than normal because it's only supported with good aspects. Mercury is making the supportive sextile to Neptune. So you, in communications, you have understanding from others. Others will be more forgiving if you've made mistakes. Of course, the mistakes will come to the surface again. Something will have to be redone, reevaluated, rejudged, redone a few times, as always, rediscussed a few times with people. But people, because of the ninth aspect between Neptune and Mercury, people will be more inclined to be forgiving. More inclined because Neptune is more, you know, kinder influence, so to speak. And Neptune is in Pisces, very kind of forgiving sign as well. So it's important for you not to try and hide those mistakes if they happen. Just go and appeal to people's good feelings, because people, if you try to hide it in some way, if you try to pretend that nothing happened, no, be honest and say to people, you know, whatever mistakes happen, whatever miscommunication, say sorry, you know, honestly, it's misunderstanding on my side, I oversaw this, I didn't know, pay attention. People will accept that and they will be forgiving. And then Mercury is also making a trine aspect to Pluto, and a trine aspect, it's basically forming a grand trine in earth signs while it's retrograde with Pluto and with Jupiter. So Mercury is making only good aspects to the planets, only supported. So I foresee that this Mercury retrograde, compared to the last Mercury retrograde which was in Capricorn, it was in January approximately, 2016. That was a painful one because Mercury was making so many difficult aspects. It was conjunct Pluto. Pluto can block you fully. Pluto, I was having a headache with frustrations and problems, and my laptop broke then. And I mean, Pluto is the planet of death. All went kaput. Lost so much information, so much. My emails went all over the place. I was not receiving them. Pluto is a hiding planet. It was hiding things. But anyway, that was the old Mercury retrograde, and there was Uranus square to that Mercury retrograde in January. So that was very tense, and that wasn't very auspicious Mercury retrograde. It showed us properly the mistakes we've made, and kind of with not easy consequences after that. But this one is going to be, actually, I'm sure that a lot of people will be quite satisfied with the results of this Mercury retrograde. First of all, as I said, it's only good aspects. Second of all, it's making good aspects to Pluto throughout most of its retrogradation. So now this time Pluto is not blocking Mercury. So this time Pluto is empowering it through this, you know, through this trine supportive aspect from the sign of Capricorn. So some structural changes that you're making, revisions, they'll go smoothly. Okay, you might have to do those changes and those revisions and those reevaluations, but Pluto will bring to the surface certain hidden things that you are not aware of, but you will incorporate them so easily into whatever project you're doing or into whatever you're trying to fix, to arrange, because Mercury is the planet of arranging, managing with our two hands, with our logical brain, you know. That's what we as humans naturally do, you know. And so you'll be able to sort out such matters, and especially material issues of material nature, like arranging something of practical, material, tangible nature, because the grand trine that Mercury retrograde is doing is happening in earth signs. And earth signs is about visible, practical, tangible things. It's about money, because Mercury is in Taurus. It's about your finances. It's about matters of, maybe fixing something and revising and redoing something that is you can touch with your fingers, and that will have tangible, long-lasting consequences, because Mercury is retrograde in Taurus, a sign of long-lasting influence. Sorry about that. You can receive support while you're changing those plans and revising from Plutonic figures. In Capricorn, which is figures of authority. Capricorn is authority figures, all the figures. They might point out even some mistakes to you, but they'll also give you a hand, and they'll say, this is how to do it better, or this is maybe what's not you're doing exactly. And so Capricorn is all the people with more experience, people with more authority, or just 7 years older or more. And from Plutonic type of people as well, Pluto people are people in power, especially kind of in institutional power, because it's in Capricorn and sending this good trine aspect to Mercury. People in maybe a psychologist or an advisor who can help you as well, having to go through certain, especially if you're going through some reevaluation of a relationship, the rethinking of a relationship or some communications, get a consultant or advisor who is Plutonic in nature, Pluto's a very insightful people who get to the deep matter of things, like someone who is and that's a secret advice as well, because Pluto is a secretive planet, but someone who is, for example, a psychologist or a counselor of such sort, or some kind of a big group organizations, because Pluto is a planet of big group influences that and structural institutions that you can be arranging something with. Whether it's some visas, whether it's some something with government structures, and again, you have to redo it, you have to provide extra documents or something like that, but because the aspect is harmonious, they will eventually support you in that, whatever you're trying to arrange, manage, documents, papers, or whatever. Okay, so the other trine Mercury is receiving in a support this May is from Jupiter. So the great benefic, and Jupiter is in Virgo. So you can receive support from uncle-like figures, like benefactors. Jupiter naturally rules benefactors. They can help you with your plans. So even if they're pointing out some issue, they'll be supportive towards you. They might give you, Jupiter rules gurus, teachers, advisors, mentors, father figures, again. So this kind of figures, you might have to redo something, again, put extra efforts, but you have the support of the resources of such people. And Jupiter is in Virgo, which is another practical earth sign, and Virgo rules narrow specialists. So you can go and advise specific narrow specialists. Whether you're doing something for a court case, whether you're doing something for, researching how to start a website or trying to do it, you can and you will benefit a lot from the support of such narrow specialists, of professionals that, Virgo rules such kind of professionals that have a lot of specific insight into a matter. And the results, again, as I said, they'll be tangible, they'll be practical. So I'm really liking this Mercury retrograde, even though it is happening at the background of Mars retrograde as well. So again, proceeding with caution, you have to be careful. But overall, Mercury matters, even though they'll have to be reevaluated, reassessed, they will get, good final results. And Virgo is also medical, people in medical professions, people in, so if you might have to go for a second opinion on some health issue there, and this time you will have a better chance to get a better second opinion from a medical person with higher knowledge, which is Jupiter in specialized areas like medical professions, like healing, like health issues as well, because Virgo rules all those. Sorry. Or even computer specialists, anyone who specializes narrowly in something. These people will be supportive for your plans. And now I just want to quickly mention how each sign will benefit or what they'll have to do. This Mercury in Taurus, how it's going to affect them. And make sure you listen to your sun and your ascendant sign. So for Aries, Mercury goes retrograde, whether your ascendant or moon, ascendant or sun or even moon is in Aries. Mercury will be retrograde in your second house for the most of May. And actually the whole period starts even already from April, while Mercury is moving through that sign, then goes back May backwards and then goes forwards in June. So it's almost like a couple of months that it lasts. And sorry about that. And so for Aries, this will be some reevaluation, reassessment of their finances, redistributing, maybe changing bank accounts, doing something to arrange financial matters, maybe taking a look at their wardrobe and their possessions and filing away some things, giving them away, going over things, over possessions, over matters of material nature, of anything tangible that is possessions, that is money, that is whether it's your books, whether it's your furniture, whether it's your clothes, whether it's how you handle your finances. This can be a time where you really evaluate your finances overall and you make some changes there, plan A, plan B, see things from a different perspective in regards to your finances. And even if there are some complications, they come only to help you fix mistakes from before that was probably leaking money for you or leaking resources for you, and it was not the most optimal case. So by the end of this, by June, you'd have sorted out some material things, have gone over, you know, probably you have improved some sources of income at the same time and some managing of possessions and resources. For Taurus, it's happening in your sign, Taurus, whether it's your ascendant or sun. And that's, Taurus will feel it the most, will be the most impacted. But again, as I said, it's very well supported, this Mercury retrograde. So Taurus will be asked to use a lot of their Mercury skills to a very high level. And Mercury is like maybe, you know, whether it's your writing, whether it's your speaking that you have as a skill, whether it's report writing, maybe you'll be asked to do some serious planning as well. And revision of some certain plans that you've already started working on, revision of some projects that you're already working on, especially people that are in media. Taurus is that are in media, that are in writing, that are in speaking, that are in advertising, in communications, in information, in travel, any kind of careers that are connected to that, or administration, or planning and organizing, marketing, advertising. So almost like 80–90% of all careers, I would say, are connected to Mercury. So if you happen to be Taurus, you'd have to be completing certain project in regards to going over, maybe fixing something there, and you'll be asked to use your skills to the best of your ability to really push harder. I remember when I had Mercury retrograde in my sign, it was a very productive time for me. I was redoing, re-editing some things, and then I launched an amazing project. At the time, Mercury went direct, and I was not even planning with it astrology, but it just so happened that during the whole retrograde, I was working on perfecting the details. That's what retrograde is, perfecting the details, you know. And then the project was great success. So something like that can be happening as well. So rearranging, remodeling something, you know, seeing things from a different matter, and this will directly impact you and your image and how others see you, and it can, you know, increase your self-confidence in the long run after Mercury goes direct. Then Mercury retrograde for Gemini, it's in your 12th house, Gemini. So some mistakes, 12th house is this hidden house. So some mistakes that you are not, that you've probably made in the past, that they can come to the surface now. And something, when I had Mercury retrograde in my 12th house, I've I've had filing issues with my emails and stuff, because this is something I have not taken care. I had not paid attention in before, so it really came, and it's kind of in the 12th house. It's a little bit sneaks up on you without expectations, because it's almost like it's as if behind your back, you know. And I would advise you, try not to get into anything that you're doing behind other people's back, or talking about other people's back, or kind of conniving behind other people's backs, because it can backfire. But if you are preparing and looking for alternatives of something that you've been doing already, so you're doing it behind the scenes, you know, this is a good time. Or you might be doing some research. Mercury, the 12th house, is very much connected to research. And it can give you some amazing insights. If you've been researching something for a while now Mercury goes retrograde, and you can see it from a different point of view, and you can just deep dive into changing and improving this research, and by the time it starts moving direct, you can have very positive results again. Or it might be something to do with foreign countries, because Mercury, 12th house rules foreign countries. And Gemini, they often feel Mercury retrograde quite strongly, because Mercury rules them as a planet, you know. And so something to do with foreign countries, foreign travel, can get a little bit complicated, might need doing extra efforts, extra put of checking the details, but by the end you do it, you might have sorted out. By the time Mercury turns direct, you would have provided possibly better documents for a visa, or for something to arrange some foreign travel, or affairs that are more private and hidden of some sort. Then Cancer, Mercury retrogrades in your 11th house, in the sign of Taurus. So it means that there might be certain having to re-examine some long-term goals and projects that you've been doing, because 11th house rules your goals and dreams and long-term projects, and kind of maybe change to the plan A to a plan B, or do some fixtures there. Also to re-examine how you make money, gainfulness. 11th house is gainfulness. If you have your own business, or if you're relying on some bonus, you might have to be doing some extra work and working hard for something in order to receive this later on when Mercury turns direct. 11th house is your friendships and communications. So be careful right now, Cancers, because you might be re-examining and re-evaluating certain friendships or social connections with others. There might be some intense emotional conversations, things to be said and come to the surface with people that you consider friends. And if this friendship is worth saving, you know, if it's worth it, it will be very much strengthened by the end of the Mercury retrograde, and you'd have a much more stable foundation for this friendship, and you'd have said things that you have not, maybe that were not directly that you wanted to say for a while, or maybe friends of yours can say that to you. But if friendship is rocky, Mercury retrograde now can make you change your mind a lot about that friendship or that social circle. Okay, Mercury, so then we're going to Leo. Mercury, if you're Leo ascendant or Leo sun, Mercury is retrograde in your 10th house. 10th house is directly connected to authority people in power, so you might have some important negotiations and with authority figures. Might be about renegotiating your position, about you know, having to prove your authority with extra skills, because the 10th house is the house of our skills, of our social reputation, of our career. So you might be required during this Mercury retrograde to put extra efforts in regards to your career, to put extra efforts in some projects that will, by the time Mercury turns direct, it would have been, this will contribute to you affirming your authority more, to completing some project, to gaining more authority and more control, and changing some structure. If you have your own business, 10th house is the structure of your business, how you run it, how you control it, how you are planning and executing, even if it's not your own business, how you're planning and executing things, and the structure of that. So Mercury can make you reevaluate all that, change something there in regards to your career, in regards to your social status. Or some project from the past can come that you have to work on again and improve on it. Or some issue with a boss or authority figure can come that can be looked at, improved hopefully, and approached in a different way. and after that it gives you more authority to yourself, it gives you more productivity as well at the end of this process. The results will be longer lasting, and you'd have affirmed your authority and affirmed your social reputation through your career, through your vocation, through your actions, because 10th house is one of the houses of actions and responsibilities, and also reevaluating your responsibilities. And people that are in Mercury careers, if you're Leo, this can be a very hectic and very demanding period for you, where you're asked to put extra efforts in those Mercury careers. But at the end of the day, again, this is when the important events happen. This is when the important, like a real push happens that after that can shift your career on a different level, that can help you complete something to the best of to a much more refined level. So Mercury careers are again writing, speaking, communicating, media, teaching, planning, anything to do with administrative work, anything to do with travel, anything to almost all careers, you know. Almost every career has something like that, you know. Advertising, marketing, management, all those planning. Sorry about that. So something is, you're reevaluating something, you're changing them, and if it's not worth it, you know, or a relationship with an authority figure, it can become more intense. But Mercury wants us, and as I said, it's a small supported Mercury. So you can solve those issues, you know, you can solve this issue with good communication, with kind of support from others as well, as I said, by appealing to the good feelings of others. Then if you happen to be Virgo, ascendant or sun, then Mercury becomes in your 9th house. So this might be, it actually can be quite supportive, because Virgo is another earth sign and Mercury is in an earth sign. So Mercury is directly supportive of the other earth signs, just like Capricorn and Virgo. So for Virgo, this is actually a good, it can be again a very important time to do something with communications, to do something with information, to complete some Mercury projects which is connected to information, which is connected to planning, to advertising, to marketing, to connecting with people, to go over, review it and perfect it and make it better. And for planning for the future as well, to review plans for the future, because the 9th house is the house of future. It's house of looking ahead and seeing things from a different, higher perspective, you know, or arranging documents for foreign countries, or something very important developments in regards to arranging something with foreigners, or higher education, where you have to be extra attentive to the detail. Where you have to be extra attentive to details, Virgos. So if you're planning any trips, if you're planning any important communications, or anything to do with higher educations or pre-qualifications, this is when you all of a sudden you can see that you might need extra qualifications for something, or you might have to work extra hard on certain exams or on certain qualifications to receive of some sort, you know, and foreign documents, anything connected to foreign countries. And again, you will receive support. You might just have to correct a few things in how you're approaching this, and at the end of the process, the results, because of this Mercury retrograde, will very likely be positive for you. But, you know, revising, reassessing. Mercury, if you happen to be Libra Sun or Libra Ascendant, and Mercury goes retrograde in your 8th house, reevaluating, reassessing anything to do with taxes, with budgeting, with finances that are mutual and shared. Anything to do with, for example, if you're getting some grant, they might have to re-examine your application, or you might have to reapply, or you might have to bring some extra documents, or if you're applying for a loan from a bank, or if you're trying to receive money from someone, you know, that is other people's resources, or your partner's finances might be getting reevaluated. Or if you have business partnerships, your business partnership, you might have to re-examine the, you know, the clauses of those financial remuneration and the financial responsibilities of some sort and the resources of some sort. You have to put extra efforts into that, but again, you will also receive support, and at the end of the process, you'll have a better functioning finances that are somehow connected to you and others, not only your personal finances, finances that you share with partner or with others in some way. And there might be, 8th house is also a house of secrets. Some secrets from the past can come to the surface to be discussed, or something that you consider very intimate, very private, maybe even taboo, traumatic experiences from before. You might be talking with them. You might be discussing them with someone to be able to see them from a different perspective and release them and let them go and heal from them. So it's a very good time for you Libras to be in some kind of counseling or advising or in an intimate conversation with close friends or partner, someone you trust a lot, because, or someone, someone as well can use you as such a person to share something very private, something very confidential. And some confidential and hidden information can come somehow to the surface while Mercury is retrograde there, and to make you see a certain complicated situation from a different angle. Then if you are Scorpio, Mercury goes retrograde in your 7th house. And remember how at the beginning I was talking about Mercury retrograde, how it gives reevaluation and discussions, important discussions in relationships. Everything that I said then is valid for you Scorpios, because you'll be evaluating sorry about that. You'll be reevaluating important relationships in your life, business or personal ones. There might be, something that comes from you or from the partner that has been bottled down, that needs to be shared now, or even clients, one-to-one, people that you have one-to-one relationships with. And that if this relationship is good, it will be even more strengthened after that, because you'd have created new rules, in a sense, for the relationship, because Mercury rules the rules of the game. So you'd have discussed it and changed somehow the rules so they're more auspicious for both of you in business or personal partnerships. And if they're not good, then it can be like kind of a crisis breakdown period in those such relationships. But you become extremely aware of mistakes and communications that have been happen in relationship. And if it's about contracts, Scorpios, you might need to be reevaluating, looking at the final print of some contracts, or some promises that you've made in the past can come to you. And people from the past can come, even past relationships can come into your life right now, to be seen from a different perspective, to be approached from a different mental angle. And if you're doing contracts, these contracts might have to be looked more in detail and the finer print to be perfected. Some negotiations might stall and might need to be worked on with extra efforts, but by the time Mercury starts moving direct from the end of May, you would be having way better, way better contractual relationships that are more fair on both sides. And agreements or some promises that came, you'd have to keep them, came from the past. Okay, if you're Sagittarius, Mercury is retrograde in your 6th house. It's kind of like springtime cleaning. 6th house, the house of order, of efficiency. So you'll be asked to review your daily activities and to review your daily routines, health routines, and also work routines in such a way that after that it might frustrate you initially that you have to redo it, or you have to worked on something in great detail, because the 6th house is also connected to working to something to perfection in great detail. But, and kind of also working behind the scenes and doing the dirty job, the slave job, so to speak. But you are perfecting on those details, on those skills, redoing them, extra efforts over and over a few times. And you're changing something with your daily routines. You have to reevaluate them, because even your health might tell you something, how you're arranging your daily activities, how you're arranging your daily, routines. It's not so good for your health, and you have to reevaluate it and change something, see it from a different perspective. Or how you're arranging your work activities is not efficient enough. You have to, for example, do it in a different technique, in a different way. That's what, like, reevaluation of your whole work position, in a sense. And duties and responsibilities, which is also Virgo, which is also 6th house, So this is, and by the end of this process, you have a more efficient system, a more efficient daily routines, very likely more efficient work and even more efficient health if you've done it properly, you know. Sorry about that. Capricorn, if you're Capricorn ascendant or Capricorn sun, Mercury is going retrograde in your 5th house, which is actually can be some creative projects from the past might have to be completed, might have to be paid attention to. If you have your own business, the 5th house rules your own business. So something that when I had Mercury retrograde in the 5th house, I redid my business. I redid my whole website. I told you, like I saw it in a different light. And I said, there's a better way to do that. So you might have to be redoing, restructuring something if you're a freelancer, on how you promote yourself, on how you're doing your business, you know, how you're running it, structural changes there, planning changes. Or if you're working some creative project or some center stage, any kind of center stage activities where you are the star, basically, they have to be planned more carefully, but also at the same time Mercury retrograde there shows that yes, that's the crunch time. This is when you're made to put the extra effort, and when it goes direct you might have like a creative breakthrough. You might have like you come out with a really good project that you invented, that you've worked on. But again, the retrograde is about putting the final touches of perfection, changing something that's not working so well. 5th house is also your children. So there might have to be some important conversation and restructuring somehow your relationship with your children, seeing it from a different perspective. There might be some complication that comes in the life of your child that you need to put more planning into, more effort, some of your skills as well. But at the end of the process, again, because it's one of those good Mercury retrogrades, your child would have become more, or your relationship with your child would have become more, how do I say, more workable, and you'd be able to have a more, or your child would have been able, you'd have been able to help your child resolve certain issues. Okay, 5th house also rules our romantic partners, the ones before marriage or before children. So for those of you who are Capricorns, you know, there might be reevaluation of your romantic relationships. And if there are, you know, some important conversations in romantic relationships and matters of the heart can happen. And you might be reevaluating how you're approaching matters of the heart and dating and love and who you open your heart to. Something from the past in regards to romantic relationship can also come back to your life, to see that person or that situation from a different perspective. You might be thinking about that, or it might actually confront you as a situation that you reevaluate, see from a different perspective, and make the corrections. So for next time, you know, to make it different way. And if a relationship with lovers are good, then they can just deepen during this period through important deep conversations by each one expressing things they have not expressed before that they consider important. But if a relationship is not so good, talking about lovers' relationships, romantic life relationships, then it can be re-evaluated again, as I said. And then if you happen to be Aquarius, Mercury goes retrograde in your 4th house. So Aquarius Sun or Aquarius Ascendant, this means some changes you're making with your home environment. You might be redecorating, you might be moving you might reassess that you want your home to look different and start changing something, or even some structural problems around your home might come up, so you have to fix them to make it look better. Or you might be, if you're in the middle of sales or negotiations for flats, this can be the period when you need to put the final touches to perfect it, you know, your property before you put it out there on the market. Or if you're in some negotiations already about sales, they need to be taken very carefully. They might have to be reviewed a few times. They might have to make some corrections there. If you're in the process of buying property, make sure you check everything. Check that what works, what doesn't work. It's a good time to continue researching for property. But if you set your mind on a property and you want to sign a contract now to get it, make sure that, you know, you read the fine print, you consult the right people, you know, and if possible, wait till it starts turning direct, because very likely this is when things will unlock actually, and they start happening in regards to your property. Before that, you are doing the final touches during the Mercury retrograde. You're kind of fixing there something, improving there something, and then you can start moving ahead. Or you might be relocating, You might be reevaluating the place that you're living in. You might be reevaluating the place where you feel you belong. Or you might be reevaluating relationships with family, whoever you consider your family, extended family. And there might be some very important emotional conversations with such people that you have to face and address, and hopefully after that your relationship will be strengthened even more. Or if there is some issues that have been hidden under the carpet in your own personal life and family, they'll come to the surface now to be discussed and to be fixed in some way. And then if you happen to be Pisces, Mercury is retrograde in your third house. So third house is very much Mercury oriented. So you might have important communications and conversations and negotiations that are emotional as well, with contacts with associates, with siblings, with neighbors, with people in your local community, with people from your work, with teammates, playmates, people in your everyday environment, that you have that either they or you will vocalize something that has been an issue, or maybe that you've just discovered is an issue and it has to be discussed. And again, through communication, this Mercury retrograde will sort this out. It doesn't have to break up relationship with siblings, with teammates, with co-mates, with co-workers. If you approach it in a rational way and communicate and confess way rather than freaked out way, you know. And it will stabilize those relationships in the long run. But initially, during the retrograde period, those issues can come up. Also, third house is communication devices. Mercury retrograde there, laptops, phones, be careful. You might lose them. You might forget them something. You might, you know, if you haven't updated your phone, it might block and you might be wondering for 20 days what's happening. Or for example, there might be something with information, communication, passwords, whatever, that gets a bit pear-shaped for a little bit, and then you have to go fix it. You might have to go, you know, to communicate about that. Sorry, my mind is getting tired now. I've been talking for almost 45 minutes, 48 minutes or something. But yeah, so Mercury and trips, like you might have to put extra efforts in regards to arranging some documents or in regards to arranging some trips. Or some documents from the past, or some communications or conversations from the past can come up, or some people that you are in, from your past, like past friends, past contacts, co-workers, playmates, relatives. You can get in touch again and reconnect on a deeper level. And you know, especially because there's so many supportive aspects to Mercury. And it might be a time, Pisces, that you're also some old skills or knowledge that you're brushing it up on, that you are deepening it, or you might be learning about taking an exam or something, and you have to put the extra efforts to learn, the extra efforts to, you know, to prepare for those things, because the third house rules the mind, rules writing, speaking, rules examinations, rules learning skills. So you might have to be expressing your skills with extra effort. You might be called with extra efforts to put more efforts into all kind of writing, speaking, communications. It kind of gets more intense and more busy then by the time, or maybe doing some editing of conversations, doing some editing of communications, doing some text editing, you know, or revising negotiations with people. So it will be time of a lot of communications that you're sorting out problems there. And by the time Mercury starts moving direct again, you'd have a much better project that is connected to third house if you're working on that, whether it's writing, speaking, communication, whether it's websites, whether it's some information of sorts, or much better relationships that are more stable and with such people that I said, siblings, comments, people in your everyday environment. So that's about this Mercury retrograde. I'm quite positive about it compared to some other Mercury retrogrades which are more intense. So I think it will be extremely productive in the long run. And just work extra hard. Don't avoid Mercury things. You know, it's the opposite. You work extra hard on those Mercury things and you make them happen. And after they give you extra better results. And sometimes, of course, there are difficult things we have to do and difficult reevaluations. And we do change our minds when Mercury is retrograde. But when it starts moving direct, you know, what is done is done. The harm is done, but your mind goes back to normal again after that. So anyway, thank you very much, and I will post your comments and let us know how your Mercury retrograde is going.